All right, cool. It's good to go. So let's dive right in. And I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. That's good. Okay. So I would imagine some of you guys have already done some of these questions because you were instructed that you can. Right away, I'm going to blast through 24 and 28 and 29. I'm going to blast through those real fast. You know that 28 and 29 will be no calculator questions, right? Even though you have a calculator today, it's purely because of the questions that are later. So I hope that you didn't do 28 and 29 with a calculator, because those would definitely be no calculator questions. Number 24 would also be a no calculator question. It's determining if that ratio forms a proportion or not. So 25 to 2 and 3 to 8. You can instantly tell that that is not proportional. Why?
Because 25 over 2, you can't, 25 and 3, there's no way that you can multiply 3 by 25.
Okay. So common multipliers aren't easily accessible for those. What else? In the first ratio, which one's bigger? In the second ratio, which one's bigger?
8.
So the first one is bigger in the first ratio, and the second one is bigger in the second ratio. Therefore, not proportional. You can't have it be that way. Here's another way to look at it, right? 25 over 2 is not equal to 3 over 8. Clearly, because 25 is bigger and 8 is bigger, so you can't have that. They're not proportional. Another way to look at this, right? 2 times 4 and 25 times not 4, right? So not proportional. Let's get down to 28 and 29. Write 76% as a decimal. That should be pretty easy if you remember our D2P, right? D2P. That's our relationship that we need to remember. So I'm going from percent to decimal. That means I'm going back what, Luke? Yes, but how am I doing it?
I'm moving the decimal point. You're going to start from the 6 and move it left to
1, 1, 2. So it would be 0.76, or there might be a 0 in front of it. Who knows? And then writing 0.51 as a percent is decimal to percent. What am I going to do there? The exact opposite. 2 to the right. And I get 51%. Okay? Now, 25 and 26. I'm going to talk about that. Shouldn't take too long to do those, though. Write an equation for the proportional relationship shown in the table. Y equals kx. You guys remember our discussion where k is the constant of proportionality, also known as the what? Unit rate, also known as the slope. So we need to figure out what the unit rate is. Careful, the unit rate is not 1 over 74. Why?
It's because there's 0.5 over 37.
Okay, 0.5 over 37 would be the same thing as 1 over 74, though. I'm being tricky. I'm being tricky. What do you see? Y over x. So y is the unit rate. I said no, guys. Put it away. Y is the unit rate, not 1 over 74. Y is not 1 over 74.
It's 74 over 1.
It's 74 over 1. Why?
Because y is the unit rate, so you put the unit rate on top.
Y isn't the unit rate, but y over x is the unit rate. Notice the structure here. To figure out what k is, I need to do y over x. So to figure out the unit rate, the constant proportionality, all that stuff, it's y over x. So it's going to be 74 over 1. Okay, so if k is 74 over 1, then what's my equation? Y equals 74x. I can tell that because look, if I plug in, everyone, you have a calculator in front of you, plug 2 in for x in this equation, plug 2 in for x in this equation.
148.
What do you get? Plug 1.5 in for x in this equation. What do you get? 111, etc., right? So the idea is if I plug in any of these values for x, I will get all of these y's. Because x is an input and y is an output. That's why it works. Yes?
So why can't you use 37? Can you use 37 as the,
As long as it's 37 over 0.5. Y over x. So 37 divided by 0.5 would give us 74. Try it. Try 37 divided by 0.5 on your calculator. What's it get you? 74. Because a unit rate is a number over 1. Unit rate is a number over 1. You're looking at me with blank stares. Help me understand where you're missing it. Help me figure out what's confusing for you. Is this part confusing? I just need your help. Help me figure out what's going on. Why are you looking at me with blank stares like as if you're confused? Is it writing the equation? Remember, the equation by definition is y equals kx for every proportional relationship. So 26 should be a very easy question. What is the constant proportionality in 26? This should be super duper easy. What's k? What does k represent? What does it represent? The constant proportionality. So what is the constant proportionality in this equation?
38.
38. Why should that problem be super easy? Literally gives it to you. All you have to do is recognize that the structure of the equation is y equals kx. Let's get through 27. I really want to do all of the constant proportionality questions, and then we'll get to some of the other ones. We'll move on. A scale drawing of a square has a side length of 2 centimeters. The drawing is 1 centimeter is equal to 8 feet. Find the actual perimeter, the actual area of the square. So what should I do? I know that this is 2 by 2. Yes? But that's the scale drawing. What's the larger one going to be? Well, a couple different ways to do this. My scale is 1 to 8, which means that 1 centimeter to 8 feet is equal to 2 centimeters over how many feet? What is it?
16.
So x is 16. 16 feet equals x. So therefore, this is going to be 16 by 16. So what's my perimeter? Perimeter is 16 times 4, which equals 64 feet. My area is what? How do I find it? 16 times 16, which equals 256 feet squared.
It's 256.
Yes. So what makes this one tricky? Recognizing that the scale is given, and scale is always going to be given this way. Scale to actual, or image to actual. The actual length was here. So we want to find the actual perimeter and area of the square. Did you hear that? Did you see that? Find the actual perimeter. Not the perimeter of the scale drawing, but the actual perimeter. The actual area. The scale drawing has a length of 2 centimeters by 2 centimeters. Its area is 4 centimeters squared. The actual one, you have to multiply the scale to get the actual length of missing sides. Drawing a picture is very helpful. Hey, the reality is you're taking an online test next week. You need to be able to do this on your own paper. I'm going to tell you right now, if I gave you a pencil paper test, if I gave half the class a pencil paper test and half the class an online test, the pencil paper test people would perform better. Because you're used to showing work when you have a paper there, you're used to showing work when you have space given. You're not used to doing it on online. Now, I believe that you guys are better than some of the other classes because we use homework checks. I use homework checks frequently. so you guys are more familiar with seeing questions on a computer screen or an iPad and doing work on the side. But there are lots of people in here who just refuse to do it and continue to do really poorly on homework checks. You gotta be better at showing your work when there isn't a space. You needed to be able to do this. If you didn't draw a picture for this one, then you probably should have made some fixes to that. You need to make sure you get that picture drawn. All right, let us proceed. We're gonna get through a couple more and then I'm gonna give you guys some time to just practice a few. We want to find the selling price of a $50 item after a 50% markup. This is important that we structure it in the correct way. We know our equation, right? A equals P times W. W is the original price, right? What's P going to be? It can't be percent. Because what do I need A to be? A needs to be the amount. What's it say? What does the problem say? After markup. The amount after markup. Which means that P needs to be the what? Percent after markup. Notice the word after and the word of are very different. If I want to find the amount, find the selling price, right? Selling price would be the amount after markup. That's how much you sell something for. Then we don't know A, but we do know P. It's not 50%. What percent is it? It's 150%. Why? Yeah. How much did it cost? What percent did it cost before? It cost 100%. And then we marked it up 50%. Now what percent does it cost? 150%. This is how we do percents. Don't forget this. We were pretty good at this stuff in the percents chapter. We were pretty good at it. Then we multiply that times 50. And what do we get? 75 buckaroos. Now there are probably some of you who could figure out what 50% of 50 is. What's 50% of 50?
25.
And tack it on, right? It's another way to do it. But I wanted you to remember this way. Yes, you could have done it the way that I just illustrated. Find half of 50 and then tack it on, right? But I wanted you to remember that you can add percents, especially if it's one that's not as nice as 50%, right? What if it was markup of 38%? Well, it makes it a little bit difficult, a little more difficult. Instead of a $50 item, it's a $49.99 item. Well, you can't do that one here. Okay. All right, 31. You deposit $300 in a savings account. The account earns 1% simple interest. What is the interest earned after 3 years? What is the balance earned? Those are two different questions. So the interest, you're solving for I, right? Interest, you're solving for I. What's the interest earned after 3 years? So what's my P in this problem?
1%.
P is not 1%. This is a very different one. Jory, what is it? 300. Does anybody remember what P stands for in this particular kind of problem? It doesn't stand for percent. It stands for principal, absolutely. The principal is the amount of money you first put into that account. What does R stand for? Rate, absolutely, interest rate. Interest rate, what is the rate? 1%. So what number am I plugging in here? 0.01. Careful, right? Careful. That people put 0.1 on that one a lot of times. Okay, that would be a very common mistake to make, putting 0.1. And then time, what's T? And now this is a no calculator question. Why? What's 0.1 of 3, or excuse me, what's 0.1% of 300? How about this? What's 1% of 100? 1% of 100 is what? 1. 10% of 100 would be 10. 1% of 100 is 1. So what's 1% of 300? 3. 3 times 3 is $9. Now the next part of this question is find the balance. What is that asking for? It says find the balance after 3 years.
$9 hours plus the 3
Why? Because what is balance referring to?
like in total, like after all of it.
Yeah, balance is how much money is in the account. So B equals 300 plus 9, which is 309. I think you guys can do 32, 33, and 34 all on your own, except when I want to pop down to 34 real fast. It says, how does the experimental probability compare with the theoretical? So what you are doing, you're going to need to give a word answer. So you need to find the theoretical probability, find the experimental probability, and give a word answer. So your answer should be in words. Because it's saying, how does it compare? So you need to describe how they compare. Let's keep on going. Now we'll be talking about bias and all that stuff probably after. I've talked a little bit about bias. Talked about it yesterday. What makes a sample good and what makes a sample bad. So you want to estimate the number of students who support extra funding for the music club. I do. You survey every 6th student who enters the school. Is that biased or unbiased? Every 6th person who enters the school. What do you think?
It's unbiased because if you're doing every 6, you're not like picking out a person that you necessarily want.
Yeah, you're not selecting that person. The 6th people are pretty much random, whoever comes in. So we would say that that's random, absolutely. So that's one reason why we could say that it is unbiased. It's another reason. There are 3 reasons, 3 things that have to be true in order for a sample to be a good sample. What we would call this unbiased.
You're also like having you're not surveying every single person in school, so it's like a small group, like you're selecting a small group of students.
It's a small group of students, but what? It's large enough. Do you think surveying 1/6 of the school will give a reasonable representation? Yeah, it's large enough. Once we learn a little bit more about data analysis in high school, you'll know exactly what large enough is. There's a statistical reason. Different statistical models have different scales for large enough. Okay, and you will actually learn when it's large enough or not. There's one other reason why this is a good sample. Yes, sir.
The data is mixed up.
Say again.
The data is mixed up.
What do you mean? Because I like that idea.
So it's like basically every 6th person, so it's going to be different types of people.
Different types of people, but is every kind of person who comes into the school going to be represented? If you're getting every 6th person, chances are you're going to get a large variety of people, right? It's mixed up, as Saeed says. I would translate that to say it represents the whole population. If you want to know the number of students in your school who support funding, then you need a sample that represents all of your students. So every 6th person coming in, that's representative of the population. So it represents the population. You guys remember what the population is? It would be all of the students in the school. What would the sample be? The group of students that you serve. Absolutely. Okay? I want you to do 36 on your own. Let's skip to number 37. Find the circumference of a circle with a radius of 8. Can you guys do that one on your own? Let's get it started. Ready? C equals what? Well, yeah, it equals circumference, but C equals what? Careful. I wouldn't use pi d, I would use 2 pi r. Why? Good. Let's move on to 38. Find the area of a circle with a diameter of 26 inches. Set this one up for me. How do we get it started? Area of a circle. Pi r squared. I do not know if you're getting those formulas. That's why we're going to memorize. That's why we should have them memorized by now. Careful. You have r here, not d. Okay. Careful on that. Moving on. We got a short time, so I want to make sure we get to some more. Can you construct a triangle with side lengths of 1, 7, and 8?
No.
Why?
Because 1 plus 7 equals 8 has to be greater than.
Good. 1 plus 7 is equal to 8, so no. Remember, A plus B must be greater than C. Right? It has to be greater. Good job remembering. I think most of you, we've already talked about problems like number 40, but we're going to need to write an equation for that one, won't we? What would our equation be? Do you know what these two angles will need to add up to equal? 90. So how would I set that up? Give me a hand on this one. I've had the same people. Allie, why don't you give this one a shot? I don't care if you're wrong, I just care that you care. I care that you try.
Okay, so
So I'll help guide you. What do we know about these two angles?
you have to equal to 9.
Careful, they don't have to equal 90, they have to add up to equal 90, which will tell you exactly what to add. So what two angles do you have? What's this angle?
X minus 7.
Good, and what's this angle?
38
And,
degrees.
and what do we know about those two?
They're both degrees.
That's true, but what do we need them to do?
Equal to 9. Add up to 90.
Good, so what is the first angle?
X minus 7.
Good, and the second angle?
38.
Boom, there we go. X minus 7 plus 38.